Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SufiPunk Podcast, a platform where we seek to elevate our higher consciousness through radical authenticity, love, and the Islamic tradition. I'm your host, Nawal Sheikh, and today on the show we have a close friend of mine, Eivind Johansen. Wait, sorry. How do you pronounce your last name?
I think you did fairly well. Johansen, yes,
Okay, perfect.
Johansen. Yeah.
Eivind is a friend I met on the spiritual path. He is a personal guide and friend whom I look up to for various reasons. Currently, he lives in Norway and is an accomplished musician and writer. I'm excited for this conversation because Eivind has recently returned from a trip to both Turkey and Jerusalem. When he was in Jerusalem, he was able to tour other parts of Palestine and has been posting insightful stories about his time there witnessing the current occupation. The show today will dig in more to his experiences and insights and is meant to promote a more empathetic understanding of what's going on. So without further ado, Eivind, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on SufiPunk.
Thank you, Nival. I'm so happy to be here, and it's such a joy to see you again, and to be invited to the Sufi podcast.
Oh, well, we're so happy to have you here. So I wanted to start this conversation off by checking in with you, especially because I know that you were, traveling a lot. How are you? How has it been landing back in Norway?
Well, it has been quite challenging in many ways, and so I've been traveling for about a month now, and then first in Turkey, and then in Palestine, and then a little bit in Norway, and then to the US and back again to Norway. So it's been like a very hectic, little bit more than maybe 5 weeks even. So it has been a lot of things to digest, and I hope I will can use the rest of the winter to do that, and then come out in the spring renewed. And as you mentioned, I was first in Turkey in Konya, and in about visiting Mevlana Rumi and all of that,
Mm,
which was very, very joyful, and all filled with love and beauty. And then I was traveling on to Palestine, which was also filled with love and beauty, but also
mm.
with horror at the same time. So it was a very sort of mixed experience.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's amazing and like subhanallah, just thinking about how you kind of contrasted like being with Mevlana and then also visiting, Palestine, a
Mm.
different another land full of saints as well, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
uh,
and that was very much why I went there in the first place, was that I felt this need to go to the Holy Land, and to see those places that I know from Christianity, and also the Al-Aqsa compound, and the tombs of Moses and Abraham. So it was like a sort of very much like a pilgrimage for me that was going then on after
mm,
establishing myself in grounding myself with Mevlana Rumi's poetry and all that beauty that Konya offers. And so it was like sort of natural traveling on in that direction. So it was a spiritual journey, as well as very much like a journey in the material world, with all the with the occupation and everything that I saw there with my first with my eyes, and also I met some the most wonderful people. So so it was this mixed experience of going to a bad place in terms of apartheid, in terms of occupation, and all the terrible things that happened there, which I sort of could see with my
mm,
own eyes that very last week before the war started. And at the same time, it was a spiritual continuation of the traveling, and that sort of the journey which Konya was very much a part of.
I wanted to also just give our listeners a heads up in terms of context. So I'm going to call the current situation in Palestine either crisis, current occupation, or ongoing Nakba, which is a term that Palestinians themselves use to describe
Mm.
the catastrophe that never ended, starting from 1948. And so, I guess starting from your journey, really, I wanted to focus today on specifically Palestine. Um, Even though it's beautiful that you've already begun to start finding parallels between Konya and Palestine and those in that essence. But where in Palestine were you able to go?
Well, I went to Jerusalem and stayed one day in Jerusalem, and then of course I was in Bethlehem. I was in Hebron, which was a very difficult place to be
Mm,
and to see the horrors there. I was in Jericho and also by the Dead Sea, where you sort of could really feel the apartheid very strongly. And so these were like the places I went: Bethlehem, Jericho, Hebron, and Jerusalem mainly, and also East Jerusalem. We were driving a bit, so like driving, past the wall, so there was, and also like to see the apartheid with walls, no, with roads that were closed, and how you sort of how difficult it was to get from Palestinians from one town to the other, and also all
mhm.
the towns that they couldn't get into, that they were not allowed to go into Jerusalem, even just living in Bethlehem, which is very close.
Okay, so you were there when on October 7th when they said
Yeah,
that
yeah,
okay.
yeah, I was. So, but it was also, I had this feeling, many places, especially in Hebron, and also to some extent in Jericho and Bethlehem, that there was this feeling of something was going to happen. I mean, the energy
Mm,
was very dense. It was like something was stretched out as far as possible.
mhm.
So there was this frenzy, there was this strangeness about being there. You had this feeling that something is going to happen, and which it then did on the seventh. And everybody was, everybody was, especially like the Israelis were very dense. The ones that I could see in checkpoints, and so there was, everything had this, and also in the Christian churches where I went, it had this kind of frenzy. It had this kind of strange sort of feeling about it. It was like something was just about to explode. So I was, especially in Hebron, it was very sort of easily felt in a way. And there was this place in front of the Abrahimi Mosque, where like there is like, now it's divided into a synagogue and a mosque,
Mm,
and there were these settlers and the Israeli army, and which had sort of taken over like a square in front of the synagogue section. And there were like children there, and there were ice cream, there were donkeys, there was like little bit like a sort of celebration, but you felt like there is something wrong here. There's something that isn't
wow.
right, and I felt that very strongly. It felt like almost surreal in a way, and it had this sort of denseness to it. And I remember also when going into the synagogue, which I did because I was allowed as a Westerner to go to both the synagogue and the mosque. And there was a Israeli soldier on the other side when I passed the checkpoint, and he was so young guy, and he was so dense, and he was looking at me with his machine gun, and then I asked him just this ordinary question: how do I get in? Where's the stairs, and what direction? And then I remember so very well, because he was just to answer to this very sort of ordinary question, how do I get there? You can see that he just relaxed for like a couple of seconds, and okay, you can pointed me in the right direction. And then he just go back to that very dense position, and you can feel that he was just a scared young man, really, who didn't want to be there. But you could, but he was sort of also pressured into like this situation, like that. And there are many things to say about the Israeli military and the force that is being used, which is for me like the when coming there, I had no idea of the brutality of the occupation and how it really worked,
Mm,
and that this really is an apartheid state, and that the settlers, the way they are supported by the Israeli military, and how everything is sort of controlled by money coming in from especially from the US,
yeah.
and the brutality in the occupation, and the sort of everyday sufferings that the Palestinian people live,
Mm,
either they are Muslims or Christians, in especially then in the West Bank, which I have no experience with Gaza, but so I can only talk about my experiences from the West Bank, really.
right.
And that is also what I was trying to do then afterwards with the pictures that I took, and also those Instagram posts, just to my voice related to what I actually saw and what I felt when I was there, not like political statements, but more like sort of eyewitness. This really happened. This
Mm,
is what I
yeah.
saw.
Like
And
you're I feel like when we overly politicize what's going on, which is kind of what we've all been following on the media, we lose
mm,
a lot of the essence, right? We turn people into statistics.
yeah,
Um, I mean, there's like a level of empathy that we have when we hear the word children and in the same sentence as, death. But at the same time, like, what I really, really appreciate about your posts, and I want to touch on it a little bit, is how much humanity you convey, even when you're not necessarily even talking about the people, but maybe you're talking about Musa alayhi salam, Moses, and his tablet, and things like that. But I wanted to ask you. You kind of said that you didn't really comprehend the intensity or the the strength of the Israeli occupation on Palestine until you got there. Do you remember when the reality of the occupation first hit you, and what did that feel like?
yeah. I think it hit me maybe on the second day or so. Maybe not so much in Jerusalem, but when driving from Bethlehem to Hebron, I think that was when I sort of started to take it in, and then eventually arriving in Hebron, and then from then on, I was my eyes were wide open,
Mm,
and I could see and I could sense all the brutality and the the terrible conditions that people have been living under for so many years, and that we Westerners haven't really taken in. We haven't really considered and I think the word apartheid has really not so much been used before, but I think that's a very good description of the conditions that the Palestinian people have been living under for all these years. And I think it's also gradually been getting worse. So it's and also for being a Norwegian with the Oslo Accord and all that
mm,
in the 90s, where one sort of agreed on certain rules and borders and areas, and then these things have been violated by the Israeli army time and time again. So that Oslo Accord hasn't really been followed up in any way, and all has been due to brute force, due to the military, and all the funding that comes in from abroad to be able to continue doing that, because it's like a sort of like a tower, which is sort of things are built and built and built on top of it with the money, but it has like no foundation. So
Mm,
eventually it will fall over. And I think basically that was what we are beginning to see now, which is like the end of it, but in a very bad way. And
yeah.
but I hope still it's the end of it, and I hope that it will be justice and that people will be able to live decent and good lives in Palestine, and that Jews and Christians and Muslims will be able to sort of find a way to reconnect and to live together, even though it might be difficult. But I still hope that,
God willing, inshallah.
inshallah.
So, can you talk about your experiences with the people there? Maybe share a couple of stories. I know you had one post, I think it was your first one, talking about murabbitin. Can you touch upon that a little bit for our listeners?
Oh yeah, yeah, the one, yes, the one with the land, the ones that take care of the land.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was the first one. Um, yeah, it was very much like a learning experience for me going to Palestine and um, to learn, because I connected with people, and I learned a lot about families, family values. I learned about how to take care of the land. I learned how to sort of live, very much in that openness and awareness that the SufiPunk podcast is about, to be present, you know.
Mhm.
And so that is was maybe one of the most learning. So I learned a lot spiritually, and I felt there was something changing in me while being there. First was everything related to the occupation and the situation for people there, but also like spiritually, I learned a lot from the people I met about being present and being alive in this world, in this earth that we walk upon, to walk upon with, you know, presence and grace and taking care and these things. So and also, you know, being invited home to families, all that kindness I was shown, all the hospitality and all that. And I was even given presents with a
Wow.
rich foreigner. And so it was like so many things happening. But at the same time, I also felt it was like a meeting that I could come with my experiences from the
Mm,
West, and we could meet, and then we could talk, and we could share, and we could learn from each other. I think that was also a very beautiful part of the my experiences there, was the sharing thing, and also that I didn't feel like a stranger. I felt like we were fellow humans that come from different places of the earth, and like in the Quran, where Allah says that you are created differently to meet each other and to learn from each other, to get to
mm.
know each other, and I felt that very strongly at the time.
That's amazing. And what that really reminds me of is sometimes the West, living in the West, what I've noticed is when we tell our stories or our news, it's always like like the side of the oppressed in any situation. And I know that like there's a lot of propaganda going around, but it's always like, oh, those poor Palestinians, they're dying and all of this stuff,
Mm.
and they're under occupation and things like that. There's a level of like internalized inferiority that we have a risk of accepting. And then hearing you just walk in and be able to share and receive, give and receive, and have that kind of like bond with those people, as equals, right?
Yeah.
You guys are human beings at the end of the day,
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're dealing with things and hardships and struggles that are completely different from the struggles that we in the West deal with. That doesn't mean that they're worse or better or anything. It's just a difference that we're able to understand, like Allah says. So I really appreciate you pointing that out.
Thank you, Nival. And there are so many things uh, that happened there, and I think in one of the posts I also wrote about this. We were driving to East Jerusalem, and we were just passing the wall, and it was this atmosphere of burnt out cars, and it was not a nice place. And then suddenly, when I looked out of the window, and I could see there was this tiny little house, and outside the house there were actually some flowers, and I could see a man who were watering a garden which was the size of a doormat, like the smallest garden I've ever seen. But it was like this light within something which was dark and denseness. There was something else there. There was something happening. There was somebody taking care of that house and taking care of that garden, that small tiny garden within by the wall there. So that was this sort of like a sort of flash of light, like a lighting inside, like density and darkness. So and there were other beautiful experiences, that meeting people, and uh, and uh, and as you said, just getting to know each other, and to share, and to be on sort of equal, coming from different parts of the world, having different experiences in life, but then we are on equal terms still, because
Mm,
a lot of things I could learn, and,
yeah,
and, and did learn, and at the same time I also could provide something valuable, I think, in that meeting.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I wanted to read out a post that you had posted. It's called "A Stone Throw Away." Just to kind of voice one, your beautiful writing, but also I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about it as well. Is that okay if I read it out?
Sure, yes, please.
Awesome. So there's and I'll post this picture, but um you say that you're at Nabi Musa between Jericho and Jerusalem. It's the final resting place of Moses, who after 40 years in the desert now was just one stone throw away from Jerusalem. I am looking at the small mosque with the maqam, but I was so fascinated by the red flowers in a desert tree, so I went there first. Before going here, I had read Karen Armstrong's book, The History of Jerusalem, and witnessing all that is happening right now, I get the feeling that history is basically just repeating itself again and again and again, until one day we might learn and get it right. It's all there in the tablet that Moses received, how to be in this world. And God is about love. God is the gentle breeze in the trees. God is the presence that always surrounds us, guiding us when we listen. He is gentle. He is all mercy. And God is the beauty in the red flowers of a desert tree. Um, so just phenomenal writing, and I love how you can take like such a small detail of your experience, and expand it, um, kind of within the storyline of what you're experiencing as you're going through Palestine. I feel like just reading your posts in entirety, Ivan John, you've done a really really good job of allowing us to witness as you witness as well. So we really appreciate all of your posts. I wanted to talk to you about. You say it's all there in the tablet that Moses received, how to be in this world. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think I basically was referring to like the Ten Commandments and
Mm,
the the law, really, the basic law on how to treat each other, and to treat each other with kindness and with equality and with justice and fairness. Those qualities that we all have, but we sometimes, well, many easy to lose to greed and injustice and violence and all that. But it was always there in the tablets, and then it's the tablet that Moses received. And I think that is also like the way forward for the world, is to sort of relate to that, those 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 basic um, uh, commandments that God gave Moses, and also that we are able to treat each other with justice, with respect, with kindness, and with love, when we open up towards that, when we listen to each other, when we listen to the breeze in the desert, and when we
mm,
notice like a red flower in that tree. So it's always there, it's always available for us, it's always an option. And I really hope that we can be able to be more, as humans, to be more aware of each other, to share, to give, and to open up to the wonder of this life, this existence, this world we have been given, and where there are certain rules on how to behave and how to interact with nature and with each other. And it's more clearly described in the Quran, but we have this guidance that has been given us, and we as Westerners, we have forgotten that, we have thrown that knowledge away, and inflicted so much harm upon the world and upon ourselves. But maybe it's not only the Westerners' fault. I mean, this is something which just goes long way back, and maybe a problem that humanity always has struggled
yeah.
with. But it's still there. It's always available. That presence is within ourselves, and that presence is without ourselves. It's a part of life. It is life, actually.
The present.
Yeah.
Amazing. Easier said than done. But
It's
no.
easier said than done. Yes, very much so. And I was thinking earlier today, before the interview, I read some time ago a book called "The Importance of Living." It was written by a Chinese guy living in America sometime before the Second World War. It's a kind of
Mm,
funny book about Chinese outlook on traditional Chinese outlook on Western
mm,
costumes and Western habits.
yeah.
And this is before the Second World War. So he has some advice, because the world is a sort of in a very dense situation at that time too. So his advice is that basically every nation um, should be no need for any military. So all the money that goes into the military should be given to the people in every
Mm,
nation. So, but for the money should be used for traveling, so that people could travel to meet each other
wow.
in different countries. And I think that is basically the what is important, is that we meet, and that we learn, and that we share, and then we probably wouldn't need any military, really, or
A
perhaps
beautiful
even
idea.
nations.
Yeah.
In
What a
one
beautiful
nation.
idea.
Yeah.
I was reading this quote. I think it's in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says that when if I start thinking that my children are better than your children, war is inevitable.
Mm.
And I feel like that connects back to what you've been saying this whole time about how in even you coming as a Westerner, Norwegian, to Palestine, you were still able to have such a easy and deep bond with the
Mm.
people and the land there, being able to sense, like the energy where you were. Um, and that just goes to show like the baseline. We really are souls with bodies, and we are really
Yeah.
able to connect to anyone no matter what. If we
Yes.
can't, it's our blockages internally within us that we have to kind of let go of, and open ourselves up to being able to connect with whoever we meet on our travel through life.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And in fact, it's very easy, but we have to practice. We have to practice. We have to practice with our neighbors, the
Yeah.
people we meet in on the streets, at the workplace, our families, and then you find out, it's not so difficult, and it's actually quite fun, and it's healthy. It's a good
Mm,
thing, and you will feel joy in doing that, and contentment, and you'll be surprised, and you'll see that it's so easy to connect with people. But we need some practice. We need to start doing that practice.
yeah, I definitely need some practice, so I really appreciate all of this. So, is there a particular story or individual that symbolized hope or resistance to you during your visit?
um, Yes, I think there are several actually, and but there is. It's easy. It's also to forget like the Christians, the
Mm,
Christians living there, and which has been mostly expelled, and so it's not only Muslims, but I also met very nice Christians who were sort of also being terrorized, and as Palestinians, and it's easy also to sometimes to forget that the Palestinians also are Christians, and and suffering too. But I think my friend who I met there, and who showed me around,
mm,
and the way we sort of connected as friends, really, from different countries so soon, and that friendship we shared during these days, which were kind of expanding, which was evolving into to meeting family, relatives, and then also going to the desert together. And so I think that uh, that the feeling of friendship, that is something with
mm,
somebody I've never met before,
mm,
and I think that was the best thing, really. And also his way of non-violence, it was also something that made a big impression on me,
yeah.
even through hardships, like years and years of not being able to travel to meet relatives, not being
Mm,
able to leave the country, not being able to get an education abroad, all those things that we take really for granted, but still being able to maintain dignity, and to maintain this generosity, uh, which was very very heartwarming, and made a huge impression on me. So so I hope that, at one time we will meet together again, and that he and his family will be able to travel, and
mm,
that will be sometime soon, inshallah, will be a good time for the people of Palestine.
yeah. So, Ivan John, this has been incredible. Um, and I could just listen to you share your experiences for the rest of the night. But I wanted to ask you maybe a couple of last questions to wrap us up.
Yes.
Um, how did you maintain spiritual practice
Mm,
or inner peace in the midst of all of this hardship and to quote you, horror when you were going through Hebron and
mm.
these other locations?
Yeah. Mm. I think for me it was important to stay with the formal prayers. Go to the mosques that we had the chance to visit, and also to stay connected with this growing spiritual feeling in inside of me. So it was like this travel, this the time I spent in Palestine was on so many levels. It was like a deep spiritual awakening, maybe you might call it, or connection.
Mhm.
Perhaps is better. And at the same time, it was like traveling to the Holy Land, which of course made a great impact. And then it was like the apartheid and brutality of it. So it had so many levels really.
Mhm.
But I think I stayed connected all the time because I had this feeling of I felt I was grounded and I felt I was there for a reason, really not knowing why,
Yeah.
but it made sense, and I felt I was being sort of held in a way. I felt I'm
Mm.
there to see this. This is for me. This is important, and it was on all these levels. So and and also, but I think basically to stay within my faith and to develop that further, and it made me realize also that there are so much things I don't know about Islam, and that I have been a little bit like flying a little bit high, going in and out like this Sufi rich traveling person.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I really one thing I learned, I really got to get down to the basic, to the groundwork. I can't be this high flying guy
Yeah.
anymore. I have to sort of do things seriously and do the groundwork. So that is also something that's
Yeah.
started there really.
You can balance ground with air, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I hope so. So, but another thing I would like to sort of, which was like this strange thing, was like I was there on the Friday before the war broke out, and I was there in Omar's mosque in Bethlehem on the last Jummah before the war started actually.
Mm.
And there's one of those posts is about that. And so there were some experiences like that, which I always will sort of bring, will be a part of me. So
Mm.
the whole time in Palestine was a very, very profound and life-changing experience for me. I think I would say that.
Yeah. And since you've been processing this at such a deep level, I was wondering if you could give us some advice as we're watching what's going on today, and struggling to process in our own ways.
Mm.
What advice could you give the listeners? Me even, I'm in need of this help just to understand how to you know how to move forward, but in a way where we are constantly raising awareness about what's going on? Is there anything more we can do? How do we sit with the grief and the pain, and then incorporate it into our day in a way that we are always aware of what's going on, but it doesn't, it doesn't drown us. It helps
Mm,
us
mm.
move forward in
Yeah,
action.
yeah. I think it's very easy to get uh, lost in a way with all the in the news and everything that is available there to see and watch. Um, but I think the thing we can do is like what the Palestinians have been doing all the time, and that is to act with kindness towards what is around you, to your family, your neighbors, the people at work, the people you meet in the subway, um, to because it's the small things that we can do in life, the small things that we can do in our everyday lives. Either it be like waiting for somebody to get in an elevator, or giving somebody a space in the queue in front of you or in line in front of you. Those small actions of kindness, and that we can do every day. So if we all do that, then everything will change, I think. And that is what the Palestinians have been doing for all these years. So there's something to learn from that, that there is
Yeah,
dignity in that, in these small things that we actually can do, which has to do with kindness and generosity, and there's so much beauty in doing that.
yeah. What would you say to the people that are like, well, I mean, I have to go to work and nobody wants to talk about Palestine and Israel
Mhm.
here in America because, I'm just going to be called an anti Semite if I care about the Palestinian cause. And,
Mm.
there are so many Zionists at work and things like that. I don't want to deal with them, like, or I want to fight them, I want to fight them with my words. Like,
Yeah.
what would you be your response to that?
I don't know really, Neval. Um, I don't know. Um, I think, Allah is the best of planners, and I think all of this will change, and
Mm.
uh, and I think that we should say what we think. We should engage in like discussions, but also like listening to the
Mm.
other party. That is so easily forgotten, and maybe we can learn something from listening to the other party, and then the other party will listen to you, and then we sort of can maybe come to some kind of understanding of each other. Because, as you said in the beginning, we all are souls traveling through this world in different bodies and with different backgrounds and opinions.
Yeah. It's just hard to remember that when,
Yes, yes, of course
an
it is.
argument.
And that's the challenge.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, really, to try to remember that. And
Wow.
but then again, I mean, oppression is something that should be fought, and it should not be allowed, and should not be, and one should say what one think about that, and one should be um,
Vocal.
vocal, definitely, yes, but vocal, but also like listening, being
Mm.
attentive. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not easy, but I still think we can act with that. The things that we can do, which are important, which I think is like not being passive, not like
Mm.
being, but we can still do things with kindness towards our neighbors and our friends and families, and I think that also will help us in our outlook towards what's going on in Palestine. And yeah,
Mm.
that's
Yeah.
me, very much a pacifist talking, but
No,
sorry.
no, no. It's the small things we do that have the biggest effects on
Yes,
who we are.
exactly, exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's these things are so easily overlooked, but they are really what the big changes really comes through the small things, the everyday things.
Absolutely. Experiences. So we wanted to end with a song that you've written, and I was hoping that you could introduce that song for us.
Yes, thank you, Nivelle. This is a song which is called "Coming Home." It's like a rough demo which I recorded just before going to Konya and then traveling on to Palestine. And it's about this journey through life to come home to the source. And I think that might be a good way of ending this interview.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your story, and your experiences. It was really, really beautiful to listen and just be able to have this conversation with you. I'm honored to share this time with you, Eivind John. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nivelle, and thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for having this show, this program, which I think is very important. And wish you all the best of luck with that.
We only know we're going, yes, we're going, coming home.
Thank you for tuning in. This episode is brought to you by SufiPunk. Production by Nawal Sheikh and Rabia Hamid. Follow us on Instagram at sufi.punk to stay up to date with latest episodes and other content.
And follow God's way.